Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let it go. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. I want y'all to hear this song just for a minute. Only know you love her when you let it go. And you let it go. Staring at the bottom of your glass, hoping one day you'll make the dream last. The dreams come slow and they go so fast. It's kind of like what we're going to talk about today is letting go. Even when you do love that person, you don't love their behavior, towards you and what they've done, towards you and acted towards you. But as the good in them, you still love them. It's easy to do that. So I wanted to really touch base on what this completely details of how we as individuals that are going through our own challenges with our mental illness, figuring out what the best steps to get really healthy. The biggest part of that challenge and I think personally the most difficult part of the challenge is going to be saying goodbye to and walking away from the toxic people in your life. Recognizing that they're not good for you. That is, I guess you can say, that's the hardest disciplinary part you could do on this new journey of getting better overall better mental health for your life. That by far I think is going to be what hits the nail on the head. Because when you remove those people, you start discovering yourself again. And that's kind of, the bottom line is you're discovering yourself again. This plant is not near as cute as my other one. I'm just going to move that out of the way. No, not near as cute. I'm actually going to get the other plant because it is super cute for a background drop. I told you guys that I'm still learning how to be on this type of platform, and you have to be, on a camera. Oh, yeah. I think that one. Give it a little straighter. That one's way cuter for sure to, yeah, for sure. That is way cuter. Goes a little bit with my little navy and orange pillows too. So anyways, gotta have everything matching. Okay, there. All right. So the last video that I posted, it covered quite a bit, and I experienced with, you guys personally. See, I can't. It's so funny how, as I've gotten older, my eyesight is just 10 times. Oh, yeah, that one. It's got. Now that's got more blue. I got a little blue on this side. So anyway, anyways, I'm just being silly. So yeah, so as I've gotten older, my eyesight has just gotten worse. I mean, by far worse. And I can tell you that I'm going to be one of those ones that ends up getting LASIK because I can't see myself putting in contacts. And if my glasses, aren't around, I am screwed. I am farsighted and I can see everything way far away, far distances, no problem. Everything up close, I pretty much have to have my glasses. And I think I'm on I think my glasses are like almost a 3.0. They're like high twos, and the high two is like 275 or something. I think I put on a pair of 3.25 and I thought that was like giving me a headache. So I just, you have to kind of, it's a trial and error when it comes to reading glasses. These videos are not edited. Let me state that real clear. Not edited. You get the live raw, just me fidgeting throughout the whole video, which I'm trying really hard not to. That's one of the reasons why I decided to raise my little table up and turn it this way, just because that way I'm not, fidgeting, and I can actually concentrate a little bit better. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's always nice knowing that you wanted to view what I had to say and what I was going to talk about. The first thing, if you are new to this channel, and after hearing the video, you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, please subscribe down at the bottom and hit the like button. It helps me continue working hard to get enough followers so I can do my podcast. My podcast with YouTube platform, and then also my live podcast that I'm trying to also get the right amount of followers for, to do my TikTok lives. That way I can do more Q&As, so I can really, help people and listen and be there for people, especially when they're struggling. So saying that, let's get into what I want to dive into, which is going to be the topic of the steps on how to removing those toxic individuals out of your life. Whoever that is, or maybe it's more than one person in your life, it's so key to do. And the reason why it is because once you remove those people, you can start healing. You can start growing. You don't have that major distraction that is causing you to lose focus on what the goal is, the most important thing. And of course, the most important thing is going to be your recovery of getting your thought process under control, where you are not bound by your thoughts, where you're not acting inappropriately on your thoughts, where you're not letting a thought come into your mind and then you just immediately react without thinking. Whenever you remove the noise, the chaos around you, which 9 times out of 10, it's not actual noise. It's somebody talking at you, not talking to you, but talking at you. That mental abuse, just, when you remove that noise, it is such a weight that is lifted off your shoulder. Doesn't mean you don't love that person. Doesn't mean that you don't care about that person. But when you can come to the terms that enough is enough, I'm done. This person is not a good fit for me and what I'm trying to achieve, especially if you tell them that you are working on your own personal growth and development of having overall better mental health and having all your chakras in line and having your complete peace come back into your mind. If they have a negative reaction to what you're trying to accomplish, that's your first flag. That's your first sign that they need to get out of your life, and quickly. Whether that relationship is, I say this and when I talk on this subject, whether that relationship is your best friend, your sister, one of your parents, a coworker, a boss, a significant other, an ex, that's still in your life, lingering around, whoever that person is, or if there's more than one. In my case, there was more than one for me. One was a sibling, and the other one was a relationship, a partner. So knowing that you're in a toxic relationship, here are some of the signs that you know that you're in a bad relationship, you're in a toxic relationship. First, let's say you live with that person, okay? Y'all been together for a couple of years. And you think, because I had the same mental, way of thinking, you think that over time they're going to calm down and it's going to get better. And you're just waiting for that to happen. So you stay. And we as women, when we invest in a man, we stay to see the outcome. Whatever that looks like, we stay. And that is something that we as women need to break, those bad habits. We stay for the wrong reason. We stay because we don't want anybody to judge us. We stay because we put all of our energy into this human being, and we helped them along the way to try to achieve, having a better life. But it's getting worse. And in the end, it's dragging you down where you lose focus of your own self, and it becomes about them and their problems and their needs and their mental illness and everything else. And here's the deal. I'm going to share some raw truth with you guys. When you're really suffering from having just a hard time overall, and you're depressed and you want help and you want to seek out positive people and positive resources, listen to me closely. You have to make those hard decisions if you're really wanting to see results of joy and happiness and peace of mind. and harmony in your home. If you really want to see those type results, you have to make those hard decisions. And this is the hardest decision you will have to make on this journey of wanting overall better mental health, is getting rid of the toxic, the chaotic, the drama-filled people in your life, in your circle. Get them out. Get them out. You don't need them, because I guarantee you, you will be a stronger individual if you remove them. And, you may not be ready to remove them, but maybe listening to this video will help you kind of decipher and do the pros and cons of, you know what, I probably should remove this person out of my life. And I'm not saying remove them forever, but maybe it's a temporary removement of distancing yourself from them, because I will tell you, one of the best, yes, it's the hardest decision to remove that person, but one of the best things that will start making sense is why you needed to remove that person. And in order for you to start kind of where your eyes will start opening and saying, you know what, I really did make the right decision by removing that person, is when you distance yourself from them. Because once you start having distance between the two of you, you'll go through different stages, almost like a grief. But once you go days and weeks without talking to that person, then good things start happening. Things that you didn't recognize before. Laughter, better sleep at night, less worrying, more enjoyment throughout the day, discovering yourself. That's one of my favorite things that I did. Along my journey, I started rediscovering myself because I wasn't tied into a relationship anymore. And I enjoy my own company. I don't have to worry about, oh, am I taking too long doing this, or I need to get this done so they can have that. No. You don't have to make plans. You don't have to make a schedule. You can just be yourself. And you don't have to walk on eggshells anymore. You can just enjoy your own company. And when you learn to enjoy yourself in your own company, you grow. You grow as an individual. There's an analogy that I heard years ago from an author, one of my very favorite authors. He used this analogy, and y'all listen to me closely. He said, people are like trees. There's different parts of a tree that makes it grow big and strong. You are your own tree. And parts of that tree are the people that are that come in your life. Okay. Now there are people that are leaves. They come for a season and then they go away. And they may come back and then they go away. And then there's people that are branches. They come and grow with you and stay for a long period of time. But then sometimes they break. They fall. And then they're gone. And then there's the people that are the roots of your tree. The ones that lift you up, keep you balanced, help you grow, help you get stronger, thicker, more powerful. And they don't go away. because they're your roots. They're your foundation of why you grow. So let that sink in for a minute while I play you guys a song, okay? Just let that sink in for a minute. It's a good analogy, right? Wish I came up with it by myself, but I didn't. Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me, no one knew me. Hello teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me. Mad World is one of my favorite songs. This is Jasmine Thompson. She's one of my favorite artists because she remakes a song and puts her beautiful, raspy, completely unique voice in it and slows down the melody, and she just transforms the song. So I really appreciate people like her. It blows me away of how good she is. There's a few artists that are like that. For sure. I'm still trying to find it. I'm sorry. We're just going to listen to a little Frank Sinatra while we wait. It'll come across my playlist and anyways, so that analogy, you know, when I use that analogy, it's to help you guys see, you know, that metaphor, analogy, however you want to call it, it's the same thing. It's to help you guys see that who's that person in your life? Are they a leaf? Are they a branch? Are they a root? If they're a root, they wouldn't be treating you bad. I'll tell you that much. Usually the people that are the roots of your life are like your children, your family, your friends that are, you know, the good ones. Maybe it's your church family. Maybe it's, you know, your neighbors. You know, the people that have been in your life a long time that has helped you grow. You know, I have a really good childhood friend, and we've known each other since we were 11, and we've seen each other grow as individuals. And it doesn't matter how long we go talking or not talking, you know, we can just catch right back up whenever, you know, whenever we talk. And another person, she's definitely one of my roots. And another person that's a root in my life is well, there's a few, but one of the main people that is a root in my life is going to be my very wise and wonderful and unique and talented Aunt Glenda. She by far is a root in my life. My dad was. He died. He's definitely a root. I miss him every day. He'd be so proud of me. Y'all have no idea just how much I've grown and stayed sober for, 4 years, 3 months, 17 days. I was his sunshine. I didn't want to cry in this video. That's the last thing I want to do is cry. I want to give you guys joy. I don't want to make you sad. Don't be sad for me. I am still working on not having him here. He was the one person that I would call every single morning before work, before I would get the kids up, everything, because he was an early riser. And he knew it'd be me calling. He didn't even have to look at the phone. He knew it was me. I think out of all of his kids, understood him the best. And I brag about myself about that, is because I feel like I got all the goodness, the generous, the giving, the loving side of my character. I got that from my father. And the ADHD, which is kind of silly, but yeah, I got that too. But he got it, I mean, he had it. So my mother and him had a toxic relationship. I've talked about this before in other videos, but I want you guys to kind of hear what I have to say. I'm going to share a little bit more of my childhood story with you, so that way you have a clear understanding of, for me personally, why I gravitated to toxic people, thinking in my mind that that's all I deserved. That's all I deserved, was broken people, was toxic people, was individuals that never got a hold of their mental health and wanted to reprogram their way of thinking, and that were negative, and that were always complained rather than had a gratitude heart, woke up with feeling of gratitude, constantly reminding themselves how grateful they are for waking up, for breathing, the little things of being grateful. Gratitude, having that in your life, is a powerful tool to keeping you on this wonderful journey. It's got challenges, yes. Check it off the list. Challenges, yes. Heartbreak, yes. All right, y'all, I'm doing a backwards check mark because I'm left-handed, so don't get it twisted. Hard times, financially hard times. Check it all off. Yes, yes, yes. Discovering when it began. God, check that off. Addictions, check it off. Coping, fighting those demons in your mind. Check it off, check it off, check it off. Losing people you love. I mean, that hasn't stopped for me in the last 5 years. I don't know if you guys were ever the type of, I guess, young adults that used to make fun of your parents because all they talked about was oh, so-and-so's sick and so-and-so died, and oh, I got this funeral to go to, and I got this, and they were our age, in their 40s and, 50s or whatever. And they would just constantly, and I would think, God, how boring, just constantly talking about just death and all these people that die and that they're sick and they're in the hospital and they're this and that. And I just remember I thought, why do my parents constantly, and as they got older, it got worse. I mean, that was like the topic at the dinner table. I'd be coming over and visiting, and that would be, oh, did you hear so-and-so sick and in the hospital and dying? And I'm just thinking, why are we even talking about this? Well, in their world, when they got to a certain age, all of that started to become more, they were aware of their surroundings. They're aware that people are dying, that people are sick, that people are hurting and suffering. It's that level of, maturity. But when I was young and dumb, I didn't want to talk about that stuff. I wanted to talk about fun stuff like road trips, vacations to Mexico, and shopping, and, making money, and, going out on dates, and, and what choice of alcohol are we going to, drink tonight? I mean, I wanted to talk about the fun stuff. I did not want to talk about what they talk about. It's funny because I was at my granddaughter's birthday party, and my ex-husband, we didn't stay married, but for a hot minute, and that was it. My oldest son, his father, and I were married for a very short time, but his parents are still alive, and his parents are, in their 80s, and they were there at the party, and I hadn't seen them since my son got married on his wedding day. That's the last time I saw, my son's grandparents, which is my ex-husband's parents. And sure enough, that's all they talked about. Yeah, they, said, hi, how are you doing? And they're lovely people, very lovely people. I, I've always been very fond of them. I think that's why I stayed in that relationship so long, not just because I had a baby with him, but because, his family was good people. They were good to me. And they were fun, and lovely people. But he just wasn't. But it was just same thing. They were talking about, well, I just had knee surgery, and oh, I just had back surgery, and oh, so and so died, and then they would of course very kind, and they gave me a lot of love, and sorry that you lost your mom and dad and kin, which was my stepdad, and so I lost all three of my parents in the last 2 years. And of course, my ex-husband and I are very, very good friends. We have always gotten along over the last 20 plus years. And he remarried to a wonderful woman, and I absolutely adore her. And of course, her and I talk, and, and we share grandchildren now. So it's kind of fun, where I don't have to be his wife. And we have a different dynamic. We have a different relationship. We're the grandparents now. We get still be bonded together, not just by our son, but we are now bonded together with having grandkids. So it's kind of neat, And, so I was kind of joking around, and And it just kind of hit me that I kind of wish my dad was here, and how much fun he would have had at the birthday party, because he would have been right along with them talking about, knees. My dad had knee replacement surgery right before he died. Like, I want to say 4 or 5 months before he died, he had that knee replacement surgery. And so him and my ex-husband's dad would be chit-chatting about that. I could just see that, picture that. And my dad was so fond of Cassidy, my daughter, when she was a baby. And he just, all these little granddaughters that he's had have been just Papa's baby. And I just know that my granddaughters would have adored him, absolutely adored him. Man. Grief is so hard. It still gets me. And then I get real jealous when people still have their parents, and I'm out there and I'm trying to be, 100% every time. But then I get these crazy thoughts in my head, and of something as stupid as jealousy. Like, I'm jealous because they have their parents and their dad gets to see, all the people grow. My children get married. My dad only got to see one of my children. Of course, there's only one child of mine that's married, but he only got to see one. He didn't get to see my other two, and he was closest. My dad was closer to my youngest son than all three of my children. He was closer to him. And I knew that I had a very special bond with my father. And I knew that he would have a special bond with my kids. But he really had a special bond with my youngest son. And my youngest son misses him like crazy. I try to get him to talk about it more, but he's just not one that likes to talk a whole lot about his papa. So anyways, let me get back to being on track, because that's my ADHD kicking in, where I get off track and I tend to lose a little focus. So let me go back a little bit. So whenever you start figuring out, removing those people, those toxic people out of your life, let me just share with you another reason why you should be removing those toxic people out of your life. You need to do it for your kids, bottom line. And I'm telling you this because I'm the kid, and I'll tell you why. My parents were very, very, very toxic to each other. They were really bad for each other. My mother had just gotten out of a divorce, and she met my father, not knowing him. He just got out of a divorce. He was wild and immature and, liked to party, and he was attractive, and she was just looking, for someone to have a good time with. She didn't want, what she had before in her first marriage. She wanted somebody that, would constantly tell her that she's pretty and that she's smart and she's successful and, all these things. So that's what she got. She got someone that constantly, complimented her, was loving, was kind to her. And, they didn't, excuse me, they didn't date long. They didn't know each other long enough. And, sometimes back then, there's people that will just stay together because, it's the best thing they can do for their kids. They just make it work. I have several sets of aunts and uncles that did that in that generation. They all kind of got married at the same time in the 60s and 70s, and then they just stayed because that's just what you do. You just stay. If you get married, you just stay. You stay put. Well, my parents, they were hot and heavy in the beginning. Didn't know each other, didn't know what levels of insanity they were going to come across because they didn't know each other. I personally, now that I am, 45 years old and I've had, several, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it, but I have had several long-term relationships that didn't work out because of, for whatever reason, but 85% of the reason why most long-term relationships don't work out is because there is some form of mental abuse going on in the relationship. Whatever that looks like to people, talking smack, whatever that was going on. So back then, I watched the only, I guess you can say, well, let me get back. So my parents were hot and heavy, okay, right? And then they started popping out kids real fast. And so they had my sister and then had me. And then my dad adopted my brother and sister when he met my mom. So, he became an instant family with my mom, and then he had 3 other children. So that's how we had 7 of us growing up. But I was the youngest. So as soon as she won, she literally turned around and got pregnant with me. My dad always was a dreamer. He always had these big, over-the-top dreams. And a lot of it had to do with his ADHD. My mom, on the other hand, was really black and white. She was never a dreamer. She was black and white. She was taught to be a realist. And so when you put a realist with a dreamer and you combine those two, and then you start adding the chaos of everyday life and stresses and bills, and then you're popping out kids and you got all these kids to feed, it can be overwhelming. And then you lose the spark. You lose a lot of things. It becomes too much. But because of the generation that they came from, first of all, my mother didn't want to have another failed marriage. She didn't want her family to look down on her, which they wouldn't, but she just felt like she didn't want to be that person. She didn't want to be the one that got divorced, again, and she hadn't even hit 30. So as we got, almost, as kids, we were young and we started seeing it all come unravel with our parents. And that was the times where it wasn't happy in the home. And I had asked, my older sister one time, I asked her, I said, do you ever remember a time where they were happy? And she said, yeah, I think before, she didn't say it in a mean way, but she said, yeah, it was before, me and my other sister came along, before my mom had us, they were doing better in all aspects, But then my father was a very jealous individual, very, very jealous. And my mom, her job, she worked for, General Motors. She had a very good job. So my mom was highly educated. Very good job working for General Motors. My Uncle Fred got her the job. I mean, it was a great opportunity. My mom was a homeowner, in the early 1970s, divorced mother of two kids. She made a good living for herself. She was a homeowner. She had 2 cars. My mom did very well for herself. And then she met my dad. And my dad had all these dreams, So my mom's security, her foundation, her security, she had no idea that it was going to all come crashing down on her because she didn't know him. That's what happens in a lot of relationships. You are so content with building up your own life, and finally you get to the point where you got it all built up, and then you just randomly meet somebody and you hit it off and you have these amazing sparks and amazing sex, and there's such an attraction and people love his personality, and all this comes down, right? And then all of a sudden you wake up 5 years later and you don't know where that second vehicle is. You don't know where the money is. Your house is gone. You're renting, all of these things. Saying all that goes back to when I first started discovering how much I was alike when it came to each individual parent. What are some of the things I was just like my mom? And what are some things that I'm just like my father? What does that look like? Because I had to discover why I was displaying the same characteristics that they were displaying in their marriage. Why was I choosing those same characteristics, those same chaotic, drama-filled, bad decisions? Why I was doing that in my relationships in my adolescent years and in my 20s. Why was I acting like that? Why was I doing that? Well, it's a psychological, they call it a generational curse. In a way, in a sense, because if you see something, a behavior pattern as a child, you're absorbing that in your subconscious. So when you become grown, you're taking that behavior with you. And that's exactly what I did. I talked about in one of the other videos how my mom, she made us walk on eggshells like every day for God, I don't know, years, because if she wasn't happy, she was going to make everybody around her miserable. She didn't want anybody else being happy if she wasn't happy. She wanted everybody to be miserable. And that's how she lived her life. And she also, she was very robotic. So she knew exactly what to say and when to say it. She knew how to act around certain people and what to pretend to be like that for the day. She definitely was, I mean, she was like Jekyll and Hyde. She could put on the face of an angel and act like she was this wonderful human being and was loving and giving, but then she would, act like that, for instance, at church around people that didn't know her the way we did. And then she would, we'd get out of church and we would say, "Oh, are we going to go out to eat?" Because it was Sunday. And, I don't know, maybe at the time we were doing good financially in our home. And she would she would jump all over us in the car for even asking if we were going to go out to eat. Like, how dare we ask? Just so y'all know, it's a very heavy dose of vitamin B tablets, and I put it in my water so I can get the right amount of water that I'm supposed to get every day, which is a gallon. But I flavor my water with these because it has no chemicals. It's pure vitamin B supplement without any aspartame, without any sweetener, without anything. And it gives it a really great flavor. So anyways, it's like super good. Almost tastes like a um, club soda, I guess you can say, but with a little bit of, just a hint, like literally a hint. It's not even powerful. A hint of cherry. Uh, I guess they put, a drop of cherry dye or something in it. I don't know. I just know it has no sugar and no aspartame, no fake, of anything because it's pure, B12, vitamin B. Okay. So whenever I getting back, and I apologize because, I already see the time and how long I've been on here. And I do ramble, and I'm sorry for that. I truly am, because I want to be more articulate with my words and getting to the steps and being a better public speaker. And this is my platform, and this is kind of like trial and error. I'm practicing as I go, and I'm not editing because I want to see the rawness of everything that I'm saying. And I think that I can relate to my audience better that way. And I hope that you feel the same way. And please try not to judge. And, because that's not what this channel is about. If you want to go judge people and, pick them apart, go get on Twitter. Don't come here. So here I am, in therapy when I am 29 and working with my therapist. I discovered why I get ticked off so easily, why I'm a dreamer, why I have had reasons, I guess you can say, why I've had reasons to want everybody else to feel bad when I was feeling bad. Because I did the same things my mom did. And I used to despise her for the way she acted. I mean, all I wanted was her attention when I was little. And I wanted the right attention. I didn't want the negative attention. If I wasn't doing for her, it's like she didn't even want to be around me. And I'm her daughter, you know? And if I wasn't doing the right thing in life, I wasn't living the life the way she lives, you know, then she didn't want to have nothing to do with me. And there was plenty of those times. There was plenty of times in my adult years where she did not want to have nothing to do with me because she didn't like the way I was living my life. She didn't like that I had a boyfriend, that we lived together and we weren't married. Shit like that. You know, she would talk, behind my back to, my other siblings constantly. And she used to say that I should just shut up and stick it out with whatever relationship I was, especially when I was married. Um, Not my first husband, because that was a very, and let me just tell you this. It was extremely violent and abusive, and mentally and emotionally and physically. There was physical violence in my first marriage, but I forgave him. And that's why we could be friends now and share the experience of, we share grandchildren and we share a son who's successful in life. But yes, I forgave him years ago. And I did it for myself, because there was no reason to hang on to that when I didn't even love the guy. I mean, I just didn't, you know, I didn't love him. I was, there was just an infatuation, with most of them. I really didn't love them. I didn't love my second husband either. You know, I just didn't, you know, he was a convenient, person in my life. He came in at the right time. He showered me with, things I hadn't had before, like, a big house, a fancy car, those things back in, you know, 2000. And I guess that was like my first marriage was 98 or 97. Yeah, my first marriage, I was in school. Like, I was still in college and we got married, and I was working, and we got married because I got pregnant with my son. And then my second marriage was, I guess I was like 23. I wasn't ready, but I just felt, like, man, I need to come together. And, you know, all of my all of my relationships back then, well, I mean, the main reason why I got married was because of the child. Wanted to, I wanted to give my kids a family with a mom and a dad. My second marriage, I stayed married a little bit longer. Um, but then things changed, and, we grew apart. Um, that was, in the beginning, it was more of a, I guess I kind of felt the way my mom felt. I didn't want to have another failed second marriage. So I stayed a little longer. But then he didn't have a drive or a need to be successful in life. And I was, I was going to get it with or without him. But I kept passing him up. And that's the main reason why, and having kids around, I was 110% mom all the time. I didn't have time to be a wife. So I didn't even know those skills, to be honest with you. I didn't know those skills and what that intended. Not until I got into therapy after my divorce and realizing that I wasn't able to be a wife. It just wasn't in the cards for me. Not until I found the right partner. And I did. I tried to find the right partner. But at this stage in my life, it's not that I've given up on the idea. It's just that I have been by myself for so long that I'm perfectly fine if it never happens to me, because I love my life the way it is, traveling, getting to be a part of something like this, getting to be an advocate for mental health and mental awareness, getting to see my kids at this stage in their life and how they're transforming their adulthood, and they're making such better decisions than I ever made as a young 20-year-old adult. And yes, my oldest son, he, as soon as he, finished school and got his career going, he quickly got married and quickly had kids. But that was trial and error with that, but he got it right because he got a good wife and she's good to him. See, she knows the roles of how to be a wife. She's very, very good at it. And she's an excellent mother. And I couldn't ask for a better wife to my son and a better mother to my granddaughters. You always want your kids to find better partners and make better decisions with life partners than you did. And there was a lot of pressure on me because I had this amazing sister who found her soulmate at such a young age, and they're still together, and they still go out on dates every week, and they're still all over each other, and they are very loving and kind, and they speak life into one another, and they pray over one another, and they're good, and they gave the foundation and the stability to their children, and their children are now very, very successful in life. And I'm so proud of my nephews. And, it wasn't easy. And marriage, I know it's hard work. I get it. I get that marriage is hard work. But even though we grew up with a dysfunctional home, my sister made the decision at a very young age. I don't know, she was like 16 or 17, that she was going to distance herself. And that's what she did. And she had to do that. She had to do that in order to grow and be the best person she could be, to have the best life. And she's proven that. She has an amazing life. She, like me, has had the same career. Her career is still going. And, she she's a wonderful mother and wife and sister and aunt and great aunt, and she's overall a wonderful human being, and she helped, you know, put the good things inside me. And she was she gave me tough love, but um she also forgave easily, completely. And we've had different stages in our lives where we were super, super close. And then, you know, for whatever reason, we weren't. And, but now that I'm older and, you know, we're kind of in the same boat where our kids are, oh, excuse me, our kids are grown. I'm so sorry that I yawned. That's so rude. Anyways, our kids are grown and they're living their best lives, and you have a lot more freedom. And so it's one of those where, you know, you get to do fun stuff with your sister, you know, that you didn't get to do when you were in your 20s and you had crying kids and babies spitting up on you and all like that. You know, it just wasn't. Um, even when they were, you know, I mean, yes, we always got together for birthdays and celebrations and graduations and, you know, and all those fun things. Yes, we did do all that. And we still do. Absolutely. But, you know, we're at a different stage in our relationship where we can share about our parents and how those toxic behaviors affected us. You know, she went through it. You know, when her and her husband were first married, she had anger issues and she would just get real irritated at him. He was, when they first got married, she was, I mean, he worked, but he worked part time because he was still in college. He was still trying to finish his, you know, his degrees. And so she was the breadwinner. And so she, you know, she had two small children, and, you know, he would be home with the kids majority of the time. And she would come home and the house would be a, you know, disaster. And she's very OCD like me. She's probably worse because she had our mom a lot longer in life than I did. And what's so funny is that I can't speak for my middle sister, but I can speak for my older sister. My older sister said that once you buy your own things and you're in a position where you have the freedom and nobody tells you how to decorate it, nobody tells you what you can and can't buy, it's yours, it's your home, that kind of thing. I became more obsessed with the way my home was presented to just, you know, the average person showing up, even the FedEx guy, you know, or UPS dropping off a package. I didn't want to open my door up and there be toys everywhere or a mess or something was out of order. I had obsessive, you know, obsessive compulsion disorder, which is OCD. And a lot of that triggered, and she even, you know, was aware of the things that she got from our parents, you know, more or less our mother, because we were girls. But she was a great role model. Not that she didn't make mistakes. Of course, everybody makes mistakes, but she almost ran off with a country singer when she was 16 years old and was going to drop out of high school and everything and go, be married and have his babies and all kinds of this because he was on the road to, being a country and Western star. But then she quickly, changed her mind and decided not to do that, which we're all glad she did. But life is too short. Being spontaneous and fun and having those characteristic traits, there's, a good and bad side of it. And that's where I got from my dad. So as I became a single mom, just raising my kids, and, when my therapist pretty much said that, you're not really built to be a wife because you haven't dealt with your past. It kind of put a sense of urgency to, oh, well, maybe I should just hurry up and deal with this. And then I can go be a wife. Then I can have that life, being a wife and, having a family for my kids, and they'll have a mom and a dad in the house and all this, right? Wrong. The first relationship I had, out of my second marriage, we got engaged, I guess after, 2 years, we got engaged and we were living together. And of course, I, decided I wanted to change and I wanted adventure, and he was very adventurous, very, very kind-hearted. But then he wasn't, he liked to do fun things, but there wasn't that spark, that chemistry, that just connection just wasn't there. I tried, but honestly, I just wanted something different. He really was a rebound relationship, and I hate to label that relationship like that, but it's the truth. And that's one of the reasons why, if I choose, to go out on a date with somebody, that person has to be out of a relationship at least 2 years. That's kind of like my non-negotiable, completely non-negotiable. You have to be out of a relationship for at least 2 years, because you are not mentally healed. My own experience, judge me, comment, say what you want to say. But when you're in a marriage, especially, and you haven't been by yourself for a couple of years, and you haven't really gone through the emotions of losing a marriage, failing at a marriage, whatever that looks like to you. Or maybe you were in a long-term relationship and you broke up, but you lived together. Those type of very serious relationships, it takes a long time to get over, and that was one of my non-negotiable things, is when, when I finally got to the point where I was by myself for so long, that person that I chose to date or go out on a date, I wasn't even going to entertain somebody that was separated, is still legally married, just got out of a relationship last year or 6 months ago. There's no way I would ever even consider going out on one date, let alone a relationship with that person. Fuck that. I'm not going to be anybody's rebound. That's a big rule I've had. I'm open to dating, but I'm not. That makes sense because it's not a priority. I'm not on social media so I can, gain followers to gain dates. So I can just pick them out like the Bachelorette. No, I'm not like that. I'm not on social media to date. That's not the reason why I'm on social media. That's not the reason why I chose to be on these different levels of platform that I used to make fun of. I used to make fun of my kids for being on TikTok. I used to say, oh, why are you on that tickety talk? What is that all about? I mean, making video. I mean, come on. I mean, I used to, and when YouTube first became so popular, and Facebook Live and all these things, I mean, I was just like, and I did. Eventually, I jumped on the bandwagon. I mean, I've had my same Facebook account since, I guess it was 2008, 2007, something like that. And I still have Facebook because I don't care what young people think. I still have my Facebook account because I do have friends that don't do other platforms of social media, and that's the only way I can talk to them. So I go there, go to Facebook. Now, I'm not on Facebook every day. I'm more on Instagram and Twitter. If we're talking every single day, that's the platforms that I use. One of the things that I noticed that I was doing as early as my 20s was I was a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to like me. So I would mold myself. I would take out the real Sunshine and I would set her on the shelf and I would tell her to keep quiet. Don't voice your opinion on anything. Just be a good girl. And I would mold myself to be exactly what that man needed. A perfect little trophy wife, a perfect little trophy girlfriend, whatever he needed, I was everything he needed. And I made sure of that. I made sure I was in the gym with him 5 days a week. I made sure that I went to every single one of, one boyfriend was a musician, and I made sure I went to every single one of his gigs. And I was the perfect, groupie girlfriend. And I let him get away with, everything. Including, having a very, very public, open relationship because he was a musician. And here I am, the girlfriend at home. I had the worst low self-esteem in that relationship. Man, I felt like here I had men before that were like, said I was too much for them. Like I was too much. I was too good. I was too much. I was too beautiful, sexy, whatever they said. And then I get with this rock star, and I'm with him for 4 years, and he, says, okay, well, these are the terms. And I was so starstruck by him that I was like, oh, okay, sure. Whatever you want, baby, and I had the worst insecurity with him because, I mean, every time he was away, he played. I think one of my personal main reasons why I was a people pleaser is because I didn't want to be alone. Bottom line. It went all the way back to my childhood as a little bitty girl. Didn't want to be alone. Wanted attention. I would literally dance in front of my relatives on family reunions or whatever we did to get attention. I would sing. I would perform. I would do some kind of, joke, make jokes, be a comedian. I would do all kinds of stuff when I was a little kid to get attention. And that was part of discovering that I really was a people pleaser, and how unhealthy that was for me as an individual. But then you know, um, when I discovered that I was a lot like my mom in a way in my early 20s, how I would like to control and manipulate men to doing what I wanted them to do, like she did my father, because they were beneath me, and they should feel privileged to be with me. So see, I went through different stages. So I went through this very dominant, woman stage of you should feel appreciated to be with me. And then later in my 20s, like almost 30, I went through that insecurity state of, oh my God, I don't want to lose him because he's fabulous and he's popular. So I went through both. And how do I know that those people were wrong for me? I would ask myself, that question, and then I would talk myself out of the answer every time, multiple times. I liked the thrill of that relationship with the musician. That was my high with him. And, you know, most musicians, they give you the rock style life. So that's what you get. You get this fabulous rock style life, and you get to travel, and you get to go do fun things, and you get to buy shit for your kids that you never thought you could because all this money was available. So I didn't love him. I loved the thought of him. And even at that time, he was all high and drugged up, several times. He did a lot of coke. And I was the one that was grounded and, took care of, my kids and his kids. And, I would be home. And whenever he would come home, he would make it fun, but it wasn't where he still didn't give me security. And that's what my ultimate goal was, because I was thinking, oh shit, I'm about to be 30. I need to get married. I need some fucking security. I need my roots to show up and be my complete, trunk of this tree. I need some foundation. So I broke it off with him. And then I did for, I guess about, I want to say the next, 6 years, I was in short-term relationships. So I was just being a mom, taking care of my kids. And then when they would go visit their dad on his weekends, I would go out and party my ass off and be single and have short-term relationships. But those short-term relationships were anything from, 3 weeks or 3 months or 9 months. And my kids never met those people ever, because I was already in therapy at that time. And my therapist had said that I needed to keep it separate. But I took it to the extreme because I wanted both lifestyles. I wanted the single life and the family life. And with those failed long-term relationships that I had, you just get to the point where it's just like, how are they benefiting you? Is this going somewhere? I mean, we as women, and I'll say this to the guys, don't knock us because we want to know. Now, there are some women that want to know a little too quick, and I get that, you guys, and that would definitely spook anybody off. It certainly spooked me off when guys wanted to know where the relationship was going, and I was just in it for the fun. I'd be like, no, it's going to go in the bedroom here in a little bit. And that's how I would react, throw a joke in. I would avoid the question as much as possible. And then I got to the point where I recognized that the single life, the partying life, the adventures that I had while raising children, it I thought I was doing them. I thought I was being a better parent by keeping it separate, but I wasn't. And I'll tell you why. Is because I was desiring that lifestyle so much. And once I got a taste of it on the weekends that they were at their dad's and I was by myself and, and I had all this free time without kids, it got to the point where that overlapped my desire to be the best, most responsible mom I could be. It clouded my judgment. So here I had this fantasy life of what I wanted, and I could make all the rules. And then I had my responsibilities of being a single mother and making sure I was the best, most responsible, most being a good role model to my kids. The love that I had for my children never, ever, ever went away. Never went away. Never went away. But my bad behaviors creeped up once they started getting older. And then they started acting out because of it. And then I became a people pleaser to my children. And that's a whole nother video. So as you can see, by sharing my experiences with you, I can tell you that I carried over these traits of a toxic, broken relationship, and it damaged me. So I'm asking you to reflect, examine your life right now. Is your relationship damaging your children? What are some of those signs? What does that look like? Well, is your children acting out? Are they trying to get your attention? Are they isolating themselves? Are they misbehaving? It's probably because of you're not giving them the right amount of attention. And I've been there. I've been there to where I would it was kind of like I would be talking and texting randomly to friends and dudes and whatever, having a bottle of wine at night, and if one of my kids were to get up and need me for whatever reason, I'd be like, oh, y'all go back to bed, you need sleep, go back to bed. And I would just shoo them away because my conversation with some random person on the phone or something was more important than taking care of my kids. And that's hard truth to admit. But once you admit it, there's a freedom in it. Admitting that you've been certain aspects of being a parent since you've been a parent, because I've been a parent for 25 years, but certain aspects of being a parent, there's been times where I was a really shitty parent and I wasn't perfect. And I did put my selfish, needs of wanting that party lifestyle of, that single life above being 100% to my kids. Truth. And I neglected a lot of their needs. And now that they're older and we all have done therapy and we've all reflected and we can talk about it openly, it's really refreshing, to be able to get your kids in a room and talk to them about mistakes you've made and how you don't want them to make the same mistakes. And I have prevented my younger two, especially, prevented them from withholding getting into serious relationships, commitments, and focusing on college, both of them. Focus on your education and yourself and what you really, really want to do before you go jump and have a family. And I'm glad that they're listening to mom because that was one of the hardest things to do, is balance a career with having little babies. It was extremely hard, and I don't want my younger kids to go through that. Not when they have so much on their plate when it comes to just discovering, who they are. But they're both very, very career driven, like wanting the highest level of education to be the best they can be in their career field. And so, and not that my oldest son didn't want a career, of course he did, but he's a gearhead. He wanted just to be a mechanic. And so he went to school to, get his mechanic's license, and that's all he wanted to be. And he is successful in life. He makes a really good living, and his wife doesn't have to work. She stays at home with my grandbabies. But he didn't want to go to a university. He didn't want to pursue a big education like my younger two. And it's true. It's true in a lot of ways, because those toxic relationships, those fun, spontaneous, high level sex energy, whatever, relationships can completely crumble the work you've done for your life, like it did my mother. I think that's why my mother resented my father for so long, is because, and she treated him, really bad, because she had her entire foundation already set up for herself. And she brought him along to share her life and to be a part of the life. And he had all these dreams and admirations and big visions of wanting this big, fabulous life, right? Well, he wasn't very smart when it came to business. But because she was so infatuated in love and lust and all that with my dad, in the beginning, she believed in him. And she believed he was going to do it, and he was going to make all this money, and they were going to be successful and all this. So she gave up her security, her foundation, to go allow him to chase his dreams. And once he was chasing his dreams, and then he fell off a roof, And here she was pregnant with me. My dad fell off a roof. There goes all the roofing money because he went to California with my uncle. And they were going to make it big, have this huge, roofing company, make a lot of money. He fell off. He was injured, couldn't walk. She had to take care of him. And she had to figure out how to make money. She became very bitter. So by the time I was of age to discover what was going on, was that 7-year-old age that I've mentioned in my other video. That anger came from her believing in somebody and him failing her in her eyes. And she was stuck because here she was, 2 more kids into the relationship. And she became extremely bitter. And then every couple of years, my dad would have another great idea. And she was like, well, okay, let's see what you got, that kind of thing. And then that failed. And then the next one failed. And then we moved every 2 to 3 years in my childhood. I switched schools so much until my parents finally, I guess, got a break in life, and they got enough money to purchase a home, and then I stayed put. But then when I was in high school, they had a falling out, and I was forced to live with her. My sister that was a year ahead of me, or I guess 2 years ahead of me, because I'll tell you about that another time, but I'm really trying to remember, you guys, and I want to get, I want to make sure that I'm telling this as accurate as possible, because I know that I have friends and family that watch my videos, and so I want to be as accurate as I can be. But I believe that she was a junior and I was a freshman when all that went down. And then for the next 2 years, they did the worst thing they could do to us as kids. Even my older sister and brother, who were early 20s, were devastated by it. They flip-flopped in their marriage. And when I say that, my dad would come back home and stay for a month, maybe 2. And then they would get into a real bad fight. And then he would pack his suitcase, the same suitcase he had. It was brown and leather. It had a big buckle on the front, and it was leather. And it had his name and, on a tag. I mean, just the fact that I can remember that damn suitcase tells you the trauma that I went through watching my dad leave. and tell him, and I was screaming and crying for him to stay because I didn't want to be with her by myself. I just didn't. I didn't want to be with her by myself. You don't want that for your kids. Don't go back and forth with your husband. If you're going to break, make a break and be separate. Do it right. Don't confuse your kids. Don't confuse them. It tears them up. Believe me, I was a child of that type of relationship. My parents went back and forth, and I had a real bad experience with some girls that were on my tennis team, and they came and stayed the night one night, and the house was empty. And then, we were getting together, they were all calling their parents to make sure that it was okay that they stayed, and giving my address and giving my mom's name and things like that. While they were making their phone calls and stuff, and I was getting all the food ready. Excited I finally got to have friends over, because for a short period my mom was calm because she didn't have the chaos of my dad around. So I felt like, oh, well, she'll be happy that I'm having friends over and, doing something different. But I never brought friends around my parents. I never had sleepovers at my house. I was so afraid. Oh my gosh, I was so petrified, afraid of anybody finding out the way my parents acted and the way they were and who they were, because they weren't the same people at church and at their jobs that they were at home. My house was filled with violence and yelling and screaming almost every single day. And if it wasn't violence and screaming and yelling, one of them was sick, or one of them wasn't there. My mom made it almost impossible for my dad to stay because she was so bitter from all those years ago. She would bring it up to him constantly. Constantly, she would bring up the past. She lived in it, waddled in it. And I found myself doing that too in relationships, where if that person didn't do exactly what I needed them to do to benefit me in the relationship, I would tear them down. Tear them down. I mean, my 20s were all the way up to about 32. I was in it for me when it came to relationships. I was always in it for me. And my kids were first. I always had that arm length, approach. Because once I got out of my marriage that actually, was, I guess, 3 or 4 years. I want to say 3. And I had, decided I wasn't ever going to get married again. And my therapist even told me I wasn't ready, and how I could, juggle having this, single life and being a part-time girlfriend, and then, part-time mom, and juggling that up until like the age of 32. I mean, that's what I did. And I didn't let those guys get in this hard. I was not going to let them get near me. Wasn't going to let them destroy me. Wasn't going to let them do any of those things. I became very angry that here I am, now mid 30s and I don't have a fucking husband, and I don't have security of having the dynamic of a dad and a mom in the house. And what the fuck is wrong with me? The cards that were dealt for me weren't the cards that I chose for myself. It goes back to my childhood. Each one of us kids was affected in different ways. I was affected through my relationships. Because my parents had a very unhealthy, toxic relationship over 20 years of marriage, or 18 years of marriage, whatever that was. No, it was pretty much 20 because I don't think they even finalized it until they got to 20. My dad leaving, those last couple of years, just constantly coming in and out, coming in and out, in and out, in and out. They couldn't make up their fucking mind if they were going to work it out, get help. They were so lost. And I was the one that stayed in that environment the longest because I was the youngest. So trust me when I tell you, it's so not worth these toxic people to stay in your life. You have to do it for you. And if you're 25 years old and you're watching this video, I've been there. I've been where you're at. Do something about it now. Because you don't want to be 45 and just now having enough confidence to be secure and loving yourself and being by yourself. I told you guys I didn't want to cry. You know, it's funny because I don't like to talk about dating and being by myself because I get really emotional. Of course I get lonely. Of course I experience those natural feelings. But that's why I have Emmy and my friends and my family. But yes, looking back, I made really bad decisions. I made bad choices with partners because I was so stupid. And I didn't have good role models. I didn't have a set of parents that had it right. All my other friends did. And that's the problem. I focused way too much on my other friends that had perfect parents, or my cousin that had perfect parents. I'm so envy of my cousins. Oh my God, you have no idea how envy I was of them. And here they were, related to my mom. So why did I get her? The brokenness that you experience, the trauma that you experience as a little girl, and then carrying it into your 20s and then displaying the same broken behavior patterns. And then your kids see it. It's devastating. Pure. Man, I have literally been on this video way too long. I'm going to have to edit it. I don't know that I don't know what my future looks like. I just know the steps that I'm going to continue doing to be the best improved version of myself, the true original version of myself. Because yes, I did the same behavior characteristics that my mother did. She would put on a brave act, a brave show, and she would put on her face, and she'd fix her hair and her makeup and look perfect. And she did that in her 20s. And I did the same thing in my 20s, up into my 30s. And as soon as I started loving myself, and I was actually by myself for a good minute, like when I was, I want to say I got into a long-term relationship and then I got out of it. So by the time I was 36, maybe, I met somebody who I thought was going to be everything. He was the only man out of all the men I've ever been with. I'm talking ever been with, even as a casual date. He was the only man that when he was with me, he was 100% about me. He treated me like a queen. He completely took care of me in every way possible, and I never thought I would ever meet somebody like that. He brought out the best in me. He was so good to me, and I was madly crazy in love with him. I mean, head over heels in love with him. And it was short term with him and I. Because I was so wanting, and what I would say back then, I was so wanting a normal guy to love me, a successful, had his whole life together, and that all I would have to do is just step into his world and he would make my world better. And that's how it was with him, except for one little hiccup. He was married. And I was his mistress. Yep. And he kept, there was a couple different stories, but then he kept telling me he was going to leave her. that he was going to tell her, and he was going to, and that, he didn't, he hadn't touched her in years, and he was only staying to get his son through high school. Get the fuck out of here. He told me all kinds of shit to make me believe. It's because what I gave him was this fantasy world. I gave him the, sexy girlfriend kind of, feeling that he didn't get at home because his wife wasn't nowhere near sexy. She was 10 years older than him. She weighed about 100 pounds more than he did. And he wasn't sexually attracted to her anymore. He lost that whole and I thought if I just showed him how wonderful he was and what he really deserved, and we were the same age, and I was trying to convince him that we were the better match, knowing and this whole time that he was married. I knew it the whole time. So to subject myself to that kind of relationship is, I was still battling brokenness, because why would I subject myself to being with a married man? Why would I do that? I was so against that. I was so against it in so many ways, because I don't want that to happen to me, my sisters, my daughter, my best friends, any of them. I would be the one that would be completely, I'm so against cheating. It's, but I allowed myself to be with a man that was cheating on his wife. And the funny thing is that she was a really, really good wife. She was an amazing wife. She was more, the only thing I had on her was looks. That's it. I looked better than she did. I gave him things that she couldn't give him. Yeah. It's a hard thing to admit that you were a mistress for, I was in that relationship almost a year, knowing that he went, home to his wife, every weekend. He would say stuff like, I don't want to lose you. You're everything to me. I don't care about your past, he would say. I want to improve your life. I want to make it better. And I used to tease him. I used to say, well, if only we would have met when we were kids, because we literally graduated the same year, and we lived one town away from each other, just one little small town away from each other. And we never knew each other when we were kids. So meeting each other later in life, and he was already, 15, 16 years into a marriage. Stuck is what he would tell me. Stuck in his marriage for the wrong reasons. He had this amazing I never been with a man. Let me just back this up. I never been with a man that had a good reputation until I met him. He was such a high level of importance in our community. He was very involved with the community. He was a very successful businessman. And I mean, to this day, he's even more successful in this life. And what was crazy is that I didn't ever want to rock the boat with him because I wanted him. I wanted to win him. I wanted to win him. I wanted to be the winner. I wanted to be the one that, I guess, and I say this in a way where I don't want to offend anybody that's in a marriage or that is a wife. Please don't take it that way. But when you are a broken single woman who has had nothing but bad relationship after bad relationship, and you all of a sudden meet this Prince Charming, and the only hiccup is that, well, the worst hiccup ever is that he's in a marriage, and you are his side piece. But he didn't treat me like that, you know? Like, I would make excuses for him constantly. I would always say, oh, but he's good to me. Oh, but he takes care of me. Oh, but he's so good to my kids. Being with him was a wake-up call in the end, because it made me realize that words are not what I needed to focus on. Actions is what I needed to focus on. Actions, not words, actions. And when that relationship ended, I think that was a really dark time for me, because I even told him, months later after it ended, because we had we had tried to remain friends, knowing that I wasn't ever going to have a future with him. He wasn't ever going to leave his wife. I mean, and to this day, and that was, 8 years ago. And to this day, he is still with his wife, and his children are long gone and grown. So the excuses that he made was, I will leave her when, my son graduates from high school. But now his son's not only graduated from high school, he's graduated from college, and now his son is married. So that never was going to happen for me. It wasn't in the cards for me to capture him. my self-esteem went down so low after that relationship that I found myself making bad decisions again when it came to relationships. So I chose a man who was somebody I wouldn't have chose before. He was amazing in the beginning until I got, to know him. Here again. And then this last relationship is the one I'm referring to now. I only got in that relationship because the guy I was with that was a married man, the one I was in a relationship with when he was married, that relationship hurt me so bad that I basically just took the next guy that, was so thankful to have me and would do anything to hang on to me. So I took that guy. And yeah, that guy, I was crazy, mad crazy. I fell in love with him fast. I was so shocked how fast I fell in love with him, knowing that I still loved the other one, even though the other one broke me as a woman. And that's the reason why I now have the rule of don't date anybody unless they've been out of their marriage at least 2 years. Don't date anybody unless they've been out of a relationship, a long-term relationship that was, they lived together, they built a life together, that kind of relationship for a 2-year mark, unless they've been completely healed of that. And my other rule, because I'm at the stage that I'm at now in my life, and it's non-negotiable, these rules in my life. And the other one is that I don't date anybody that has young children. Really, anybody that doesn't, unless they're in high school on the way out the door, kind of like about to, go to college, or that they have grown children or they have no children. But I don't date anybody with kids, like little kids. I'm past that stage. It's just not where I'm at. I'm not looking to raise, a family again. I'm not near that person that will settle for that. And there's nothing wrong with having non-negotiable rules for yourself when you have struggled for 25 years of having, all your, not just one, all. I've had all my relationships fail. I can say that. They've all failed in some form. They failed. Whether I push that person away, because I will do that. I am notorious for having those type of behaviors where I push people away because I don't want them to get too close. Because if they get too close, they're going to hurt me. Yep. That's why I've stayed single for so long now. Like no dating, no relationship, no nothing. Almost 3 years. It's been like this for me. 3 years. It's a long time to be extremely by yourself, like all the way by yourself. Yeah, long time. And trust is a big thing. That's non-negotiable too. I have to be able to trust that person in order to open up my whole entire life and world to them. Have I been out on dates in the last 3 years? Sure, I've been out on dates, but they've literally just been 1 or 2 dates and that was it. I mean, because I refuse to settle at this point in my life, and I'm okay with it not happening. If it doesn't happen to me, great. I don't care. There's so much more to this world than being a wife. It's not my first priority anymore like it used to be, 8-10 years ago. That was my number one I mean, from the age of, I don't know, 18 all the way up until 35, I guess. I felt like I wasn't a complete human being unless I was married, unless I was a wife, unless I had that role, that title of being a wife. Now I know that there's more to life. There's more to this life than having a title, having a role that defines you as a human being, as a woman. For me, just like for you. You don't have to be defined by society's moles that you are incomplete because you're not with somebody or you're not married. It's funny because almost like 90% of the people that are on TikTok, just because I'm new to TikTok and I tend to figure out people really fast and what they're about. 90%, oh, excuse me. 90% of people that what I've noticed so far, and I've only been on there like less than 2 weeks. What I've noticed on TikTok is that they will continue to be somebody who they're really not, a poser. So when I come across that 10% of a human being on TikTok that's not a poser, that's really a genuinely human, a genuinely amazing person, kind-hearted, sweet, raw individual that has that mindset of, I'm okay whether I'm single or not, and I'm good. I'm good at just being me. If it happens, if it's in the cards for me, great. If it's not, I'm okay too. That's kind of, where they're at. And they're not, that 10% isn't focused on getting a date from especially from TikTok. Get the fuck out of here. You don't even know these people and they're online and they're talking to thousands of women. So why would you be unique? Think about it. You should not date somebody you meet from TikTok or any social media platform. That's not the way you date. That's not natural. You didn't just randomly meet that person. See, I'm old school. I want to be able to randomly meet somebody out in my world, my area, my life. Run into them at the grocery store or at the dog park or on a hike or something that, maybe I would run into them at, a volunteer, community event or something like that, like a natural way to meet somebody. I am not going to meet and date somebody that I talk to or chat with or is friends with on TikTok, of all places, when they use that platform to do nothing but talk about whatever they want to talk about, and they're not using it for the right reasons. There are that 10% of TikTok I don't know how you call it. TikTok users, I don't know, that use the platform for a good cause, good reasoning. Like, for instance, there's this one person that I follow, happily married, has, you know, I think he's got like 3 daughters, works like a billion different jobs, takes care of his family, uses TikTok as a platform to talk about just coping with the stresses of being a father and a man, and how men, for many generations, as far as it goes back, how they don't talk about their feelings, and they don't talk about their fears, and they don't talk about the how hard it is, that you're not supposed to talk about it, you're supposed to suck it up and be a man. And this guy has opened up a really wonderful avenue for men to share and talk, and other people too. I'm not just saying just men or married men, but I'm just saying, like, for men in general to talk and be okay with talking, and that it's okay. And I really respect his channel when I watch him, because of the fact that he is a genuinely kind person who wants to help, who just wants to help people. And that's the reason why, I watch him. But all the ones that sit on TikTok and, um, are working out or cooking, eating, and playing video games and playing music, and they're literally on TikTok for 8 to 10 hours straight, I don't have any respect for those people. Not even an ounce of respect for those people. You know why? Because they are not out in the world showing up for their lives. They are in a pretend fantasy where nobody can, be around. Get the fuck out of here. Go live your life. That's what I say. Go show up for your life. Be a part of something that's bigger than you, but that they are so self-absorbed that all they do is wake up, get on TikTok, and don't shut that thing off, for 8 to 10 hours, and they're playing video games, and all you're doing is watching them play a fucking video game. I mean, what kind of entertainment is that? That's a waste of my time. I'm not going to sit there and watch you play a video game or watch you eat. Get the fuck out of here. Just not going to do it. Unless you're talking about a very important topic that people need to talk about, like mental illness, mental awareness, our overall health, and how that needs to balance with a good diet and a good exercise program, and how exercising helps with mental health. And if you're not really talking about a subject that I want to hear about, I'm scrolling. You do not have my attention. And whenever I get to the level of where I can do live streams on TikTok, I guarantee you I'm not going to be sitting there for 8 to 10 hours and people just watching me. That's never going to happen. I may get on for, an hour or two at the most and talk about real, true, hard subjects that people need help with talking, and use my voice as a platform for good and positivity, and how I can help people get involved. And once you're getting involved, teaching them the tools and the steps to get involved, and then helping them grow in their development, helping with that side of it, and then sharing, great things that are happening. And then, of course, talking about hard topics like, the Allen, Texas mall shooting that happened this past weekend that I talked about in the last video. Or talk about Uvalde shooting, that their 1-year anniversary is coming up, and politics and things like that, things that are interesting to me. And yes, there's a lot of, TikTok people that do not talk about politics or religion, but that ain't going to be me. Shoot. I'd be talking about it all the time. And do you think that I care what people say or what people, what they think about me just because I have an opinion? I mean, I am an American. I mean, half of the people that watch me are. And in America, we have we have freedom of speech. And so if I say that I want to talk about the gun laws and gun control in this country, and how we need to flag people that suffer from severe mental illness, people that have been, in mental hospitals, people that are suicidal, people that have already harmed themselves, they have a history of it, that needs to be flagged on their driver's license. So that way the gun distributors and the gun stores, those people can do a very good background check on those people, and then they come up and they won't pass the background. So therefore they can't purchase firearms. Because there's other activity when your mental illness hasn't been treated and you have a bad history of being very, very sick in the head. No, you don't need a firearm. Absolutely not. Fuck you for even thinking that, is what I say. Because you're not going to go shoot up my granddaughter's school because you're angry at whatever. Oh, I don't want to get all the way off on that subject, because I need to make a different video for that, because I do want to go over some more about, because I can talk all night about politics and the way the world is right now, and the way our country is literally spiraling out of control. Our country is not what it used to be. It used to be built on integrity, and this country used to be built on truth and justice. This country used to be built on humanity, safety first. The safety of our human race should be any politician's number one reason to protect us. I'm a big history buff. Me and my cousin especially, we get together and we watch a bunch of history documentaries and shows. And we discover new things about history all the time. Stuff that I maybe forgot about or didn't know. And he's like a walking encyclopedia. He's so smart. We watch, documentaries on history, or we'll watch a good World War II documentary or things like that. and about how our country started pretty much falling apart with World War II, and how it kind of just went down the drain, for many, many years, because we became so concerned about policing other countries and how we had to be the police of other countries. We neglected our own people in this country. And that's the fucking truth. Spending more money on having international relationships where we have, international trades, and we have all these, where we can, I even remember what a big topic, I guess it was about 15, no, it was even longer no, it was 20 years ago, how mineral rights to drill around here in Texas. Because we have the resources here to drill oil, and how we do not need to be continuing to go to, other countries to drill oil and to get our, our oil from other countries, how we can have it in our own country. And I remember being a young homeowner, and this guy just knocked on our door, and said, hey, we want to give you so much money for the right to your property. And we were just like, okay, what's all it about? And then of course they would come in, they would give you this, this big presentation, and they would tell you get all this money and all this, and it just kind of sounded too good to be true. So we were like, oh, okay, whatever, we'll sign up, because we kind of knew that we wouldn't be in that house very long, that we would, upgrade eventually. But yeah, and we signed the dotted line, and believed everything they said. And over a period of, I want to say 3 years, nothing happened. We didn't get a fucking dime. So going back to saying that, this country has gone down, it really has. It's gone way down. Okay. Way too sleepy. And I need to get off this video. I'm going to have to edit it because this is way too long. But, saying as much as I've talked about the steps to removing those toxic people out of your life, it truly can have an effect on your next chapter of your life, as well as it can have a completely terrible effect on your children's lives. Because I'm living proof. I am now on the upside of it, granted, over the last 3 years, being on this more dedicated and committed journey. Okay. But yes, I was that child that witnessed parents that were toxic and out of control, and how it affected my entire life. And it's, to this day, it still affects me. I mean, I still have issues, and it goes back to that trauma. And it is a really bad form of PTSD. So I have and this is something else that I'm open to discussing, because I am choosing to be open and discussing my mental illness and how I have turned it around and made it much healthier for the better. But yes, so the things that, if you want to know what I have suffered from my pretty much, my entire life and going into my adult, years of my life, um, I've suffered from. So I suffer from anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and ADHD. Yeah, so that's 5. It's about the average. But if you, I don't put a number on a scale of this person has more problems than this person, because it's really how you handle your problems and how you cope with them and how you react to your problems, because everybody's going to have problems. Everybody's going to go through hard times. But admitting that you have a problem is a really healthy sign that you're on the road to recovery, just like an addiction with alcoholism. I've been a recovered alcoholic for, I think I said it earlier, 4 years, 3 months, 16, 17 days, something like that. 17 days. I count the days because I'm so proud that I've not had a drink. Do I still crave drinks? Not as much, but I'm completely content with not being a drinker. Completely. And yeah, I vape. That's something I don't want to continue doing. I want to quit, but I it's hard. It's really hard, and yes, I am one of those people that have gone from one addiction to the other, because I definitely vaped like 1,000% more once I stopped drinking. Because I would only vape once in a blue moon, because I used to, be a smoker. And I wasn't a chain smoker. I wasn't a smoker that did it for years on end. I would only pick up a cigarette or a cigar when I had a drink in my hand. I never smoked weed because I tried it when I was younger and it just kind of made me paranoid, so I just stayed away from it. But I am for people that smoke weed, just because I know that it's good for the body. It's good for overall health. It's natural. But for me, I use complete vitamins and supplements for my health, overall health. I found avenues for, so instead of taking like Ritalin or one of those real heavy drugs for ADHD that people take. I say Ritalin because I don't even know what the latest drug Faz is. But no, I found a really great supplement that helps with focus and helps with my ADHD. So I take a supplement for that. And then I am on Zoloft because I have tried several different depression medications over the years that my doctor has put me on. And I've been with the same doctor, actual family, physician for years. And between him and my therapist, they both recommended that I'm on a certain dose of Zoloft. And I take it once a day. I just take it in the morning. For my anxiety, I do B12 shots and meditation. And then just overall, my vitamins help with my anxiety. But yeah, I have anxiety attacks. I still have them. And I just have to breathe through them, you know. But I don't take medication for that. I strictly do natural resources for that. But I didn't always, just so you know. I used to be that one that abused, completely abused Xanax just because it would chill me the fuck out, and then I would have wine, so of course I abused it. You're not supposed to drink alcohol with that. So I abused it, but I got off of it. And that was like around the age of 30. So I haven't touched it since. What else? Well, I've done another video where I showed you guys my supplements and stuff. So I'll do a video where I show you exactly what I take, because I don't mind sharing at all. I take glucosamine for my joint support. I take, of course, my B12 shots just because I like the shots rather than, I drink, vitamin B12 water. But I'm talking the shots are like, gives you a natural energy that levels you out to where you have high energy and your level of calm is still there. So, at my age, I always look for natural resources to have natural energy. No matter what, I want natural energy. Because wine was my drug of choice. Liquor, part-time, but wine full-time. I'm talking every single day I had wine. And that gave me that boost of energy. That first glass, and then that second glass, I could do anything. I could clean the whole damn house, cook dinner, fold the laundry, send out my emails, whatever, schedule my clients, and then, go have sex with my boyfriend. I was a mad woman, on yes, stupid, crazy. Yeah. The medicine, the supplement I take for ADHD, it's formulated from ginger root, and ginger is very, very good for the body. So biotin for hair, nails, skin, I do that. And then, yeah, Tylenol. I take Tylenol every day. What else I take? Oh, ginkgo biloba. I take that for overall brain health, because I have a history on my mother's side, and my mother had died, with this as a part of, not that she died of a stroke, but she died with full-blown diabetes. She was overweight. That was her fourth stroke that finally killed her. And she never took medicine. That was her biggest problem. She didn't believe in taking medicine. She didn't believe in drinking. She didn't do anything. She didn't even drink coffee. Nothing. She just, she drank water. but she took a bunch of vitamins and she always had great skin and she looked a lot younger than what she was. And if I can get anything from her that was good, she did teach me at a very young age to take vitamins, that it would preserve my beauty is what she would tell me. So I'm very thankful that it has, because I know that I'm attractive. I know that I'm pretty. I know that I have aged, very good. I have great skin, great hair. I have, I'm in shape. I work out. I still have a lot of strength in my body. I've never broken a bone, knock on wood. But my physical body is not 100% matched up with my mental, my brain. So that's why I'm on this journey. So you can have the best outward appearance, but when you're still hurting on the inside, you're never going to be good for yourself or anyone else. You're just not. So I'm going to get off here. It's been too long. Thanks, guys, for letting me just share and be silly and funny. And I'll do this again soon. Bye.